make 6 top 10 FBI captures in 1 year alone. To put that in perspective, that's 2 more than the entirety of the prior administration. And none of this would be possible without the tremendous leadership of Attorney General Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice and our partners and prosecutors at the United States Attorney's Office here in LA and our Los Angeles field office.
This is pouring in from China, and I had a deal with President Xi. He was going to give the death penalty to anybody manufacturing fentanyl in China and selling.
The state trooper thought it was a routine commercial vehicle inspection. It was 3:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in March, and Trooper Daniel Hayes pulled into the Desert Star truck stop off Interstate 10 near Van Horn, Texas, a 24-hour facility that served long-haul truckers crossing the empty stretches between El Paso and San Antonio. He was conducting random weight and safety checks, standard enforcement that kept unsafe trucks off the highways. The big rig he flagged, a freight liner with California plates hauling what the manifest listed as consumer electronics, seemed normal enough. The driver, a 52-year-old man named Robert Chen, had a valid commercial license, current insurance, and paperwork that appeared legitimate. But when Trooper Hayes asked Chen to open the trailer for inspection, something in the driver's demeanor changed. His hands started shaking. He fumbled with the keys, and when Hayes climbed into the trailer with his flashlight, what he found didn't match the manifest at all. The trailer was supposed to contain pallets of televisions and computer equipment. Instead, Hayes found 340 kilograms of methamphetamine, vacuum-sealed in packages and hidden inside hollowed-out boxes marked Samsung Electronics. The street value was approximately $12 million. Chen was arrested immediately. But what he told FBI agents during questioning over the next 72 hours would trigger the largest interstate trafficking investigation in American history, an operation that would expose how the Sinaloa cartel had turned America's truck stop network into a coast-to-coast drug superhighway, moving billions of dollars worth of narcotics using the very infrastructure designed to keep American commerce flowing. Within 6 weeks, federal agents would simultaneously raid 47 truck stops across 18 states, and what they discovered would shock the nation. These weren't just rest areas where traffickers occasionally made deals. They were cartel-owned and operated facilities, gas stations, restaurants, motels, and maintenance shops that functioned as a sophisticated relay system, moving drugs from the Mexican border to every major city in America. If this opening has you questioning how cartels could infiltrate America's interstate system, tap like and comment "Truck Stop Cartel" so I know you're following, because what the FBI uncovered was a network operating in plain sight for over 8 years. America's interstate highway system is a 48,000-mile network of roads connecting every corner of the country. And serving that system are approximately 1,600 truck stops, massive facilities offering fuel, food, showers, and services for the 3.5 million commercial truck drivers who keep American goods moving. Most Americans never think twice about truck stops. They're just part of the landscape. Shell, Love's, Pilot Flying J, and hundreds of independent operators, safe, regulated, and monitored by state and federal transportation authorities. But according to federal investigators, the Sinaloa cartel had identified truck stops as the perfect infrastructure for drug distribution. The cartel's logic was brutally efficient. Commercial trucks travel interstate routes constantly, carrying legitimate cargo that rarely gets inspected. Truck stops are located every 50 to 100 miles along major corridors, providing natural transfer points. And the trucking industry employs millions of drivers, many of them independent contractors struggling financially, making them vulnerable to recruitment. Beginning around 2016, the cartel began systematically purchasing truck stops along 3 critical interstate routes: I-10, the southern route from Los Angeles to Jacksonville; I-40, the central route from Barstow to Wilmington; and I-80, the northern route from San Francisco to New York. These 3 interstates span the entire continental United States, and together they form the backbone of American east-west commerce. The companies would buy struggling independent truck stops, renovate them, rebrand them, and operate them as functioning businesses serving real customers. To truckers and travelers, these facilities looked normal, sometimes even better than before, with upgraded pumps, cleaner bathrooms, and improved restaurants. Everything appeared completely legal, but hidden within these legitimate operations were cartel distribution nodes. Cartel operatives were coordinating the transfer of massive drug shipments moving coast to coast. The system worked through a relay model. A shipment of drugs would be loaded into a commercial truck's cargo in California. The truck would carry legitimate freight as cover, with the drugs hidden in secret compartments built into the trailer or concealed inside actual cargo shipments. The driver, who had been recruited by the cartel and was being paid $10,000 to $25,000 per run, would follow normal interstate routes. Every 400 to 600 miles, the driver would stop at a designated cartel-controlled truck stop. At the truck stop, the transfer would happen during what appeared to be a normal rest break. The driver would park in a specific bay marked for maintenance. Cartel operatives working at the facility would approach the truck, unload the hidden drugs in minutes, and load them into a different truck that would continue the journey east. The original driver would rest, refuel, and then head back west. The drugs would continue moving east with a new driver, creating a relay chain that was nearly impossible to track. No single driver carried drugs more than 600 miles, minimizing exposure if one was caught. By the time drugs reached their final destination, they'd pass through 5 or 6 different trucks and drivers. Even if law enforcement caught one shipment, they couldn't trace it back through the entire network because each leg was compartmentalized. If you're starting to understand how this network hid in plain sight for 8 years, comment Interstate Network and hit like, because the scale of what the cartel built was staggering. The investigation that would eventually expose the truck stop network began with Robert Chen's arrest in March 2023. When FBI agents questioned Chen, he initially refused to cooperate. But agents had leverage. Chen was facing a mandatory minimum of 10 years in federal prison for trafficking 340 kilograms of methamphetamine. After 3 days in custody, Chen broke, and what he told investigators changed everything they thought they knew about interstate drug trafficking. Chen explained that he'd been making runs for the cartel for 3 years, completing over 40 trips. He'd started when his independent trucking business was failing and he couldn't make mortgage payments. A dispatcher had offered him an extra $15,000 per load if he'd carry special cargo. Once you made the first run, the cartel owned you. If you tried to quit, they threatened your family. Chen also revealed something that shocked FBI agents. There were thousands of drivers making these runs. The cartel had recruited an army of truckers desperate for money. Based on Chen's information, FBI opened a full investigation. Within days, they'd identified the shell companies that owned the facilities Chen had named. Corporate records showed these companies had purchased 47 truck stops spanning from California to New York. Surveillance teams were deployed to watch these facilities. Agents obtained warrants for phone communications, intercepting calls between truck stop managers and cartel coordinators. What they discovered was an operation far larger than anything Chen had described. The 47 truck stops moved an estimated $2.8 billion worth of drugs annually. Wiretaps captured truck stop managers coordinating shipments like logistics professionals. One intercepted call recorded a manager in Arizona speaking with a cartel coordinator in Sinaloa. We processed 18 loads this week, total volume 4,200 kilos. Everything moved east on schedule. Next week, we're expecting 22 loads. We'll need extra coverage in the transfer bays. The coordinator responded, "Good work. The Midwest distribution is running behind. Prioritize shipments headed to Chicago and Detroit." It was a corporate logistics conversation, except the product being moved was poison that would kill thousands of Americans. Before we continue with the massive coordinated raids, I need to be honest with you. Investigations like this require enormous resources to research properly. This isn't just retelling headlines, this is weeks of analyzing trafficking patterns, reviewing federal case files, and ensuring every detail is accurate. We're a small team bringing you stories others won't fully explore. Stories about how cartels exploit American infrastructure and how massive criminal operations can hide in plain sight. If you want us to keep making these investigations, consider joining our channel membership. Your support funds the research that makes this possible. For less than a coffee each month, you'll help us expose these crimes. Members get early access and exclusive content. Click the join button. Your support makes this work possible. Now let's continue with Operation Iron Highway, the raids that shut down a cartel superhighway. The FBI's plan was unprecedented. Simultaneous raids on 47 truck stops across 18 states. Over 2,800 federal agents would participate. FBI, DEA, ICE, ATF, IRS criminal investigation, and state police from every state where the facilities were located. The operation, codenamed Iron Highway, required months of coordination. Each truck stop had to be watched 24/7. Arrest warrants had to be prepared for hundreds of suspects, and critically, every facility had to be hit at the same moment. The raids were scheduled for a Wednesday morning in early June 2024 at 6 a.m. in each time zone. At the Desert Star truck stop in Van Horn, Texas, FBI tactical teams breached the main office and maintenance bays simultaneously. They arrested the facility manager, 2 assistant managers, and 6 employees. In a storage building behind the main facility, agents found 680 kilograms of methamphetamine and 240 kilograms of fentanyl staged for transfer. At the Cactus Junction Travel Center in Deming, New Mexico, agents arrested the owner and seized 890 kilograms of drugs from a hidden room beneath the maintenance garage. The room, accessible only through a hydraulic lift disguised as a vehicle bay, contained cash counting machines and records showing 3 years of shipment logs. Similar scenes unfolded at all 47 locations. At the Crossroads Truck Plaza in Oklahoma City, agents found a sophisticated operation where cartel members had converted an entire maintenance building into a transfer facility, climate-controlled and equipped with forklifts. When agents breached it, they found 4 trucks in various stages of drug transfer, with 200 kilograms of cocaine being moved from one trailer to another. Across all 47 truck stops, the seizures were staggering: 11 tons of methamphetamine, 4.2 tons of fentanyl, 3.8 tons of cocaine, and smaller amounts of heroin and counterfeit pills. The total street value exceeded $890 million, the largest single-day drug seizure in FBI history. Agents arrested 340 truck stop employees and 89 cartel coordinators who'd been managing operations. But the operation wasn't just about seizing drugs and arresting facility workers. The FBI wanted the drivers, the thousands of truckers who'd been recruited to carry loads across the country. Using records seized from the truck stops, agents identified 12,000 drivers who'd made suspicious stops at multiple cartel-controlled facilities over the previous 3 years. Over the next 2 weeks, as drivers crossed state lines and stopped at way stations, state police working with FBI arrested them. By the end of June, 8,700 drivers had been taken into custody. In total, Operation Iron Highway resulted in 9,287 arrests, 340 truck stop employees, 89 cartel coordinators, and 8,958 drivers. It was the largest coordinated trafficking enforcement action in U.S. history. At trial, the evidence against the truck stop network was overwhelming. Prosecutors presented the seized drugs, financial records showing cartel payments, wiretap recordings of shipment coordination, and testimony from cooperating defendants. The truck stop owners and managers faced the harshest charges: racketeering, conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, money laundering, and operating a continuing criminal enterprise. Many received sentences of 25 to 40 years. Several facility owners received life sentences. The drivers' cases were more complicated. Drivers with evidence of multiple runs and active participation faced 10 to 20 years. Drivers with minimal involvement received shorter sentences or plea deals. Robert Chen, whose arrest had started the investigation, received a 7-year sentence in exchange for his cooperation. But the legal consequences couldn't undo the damage. Over 8 years, the truck stop network had moved an estimated $2.8 billion worth of drugs into American communities. DEA analysis linked the network's distribution to approximately 8,400 overdose deaths across the country. At congressional hearings held 2 months after the raids, the questions were pointed and angry. How had cartels been able to purchase 47 truck stops without triggering any oversight? Why hadn't transportation authorities noticed suspicious patterns? The answers revealed systemic gaps. Truck stops were regulated for fuel quality and safety, not for criminal activity. There was no federal database tracking ownership changes, and state troopers couldn't possibly check every truck at every facility. The investigation also exposed how desperately vulnerable the trucking industry had become to cartel recruitment. Many independent truckers were struggling financially. When cartel recruiters offered $15,000 for a single run, as much as some drivers made in an entire month of legitimate work, the temptation was overwhelming. One former driver, testifying before Congress after accepting a plea deal, described the pressure. "I was 2 months behind on my mortgage. My wife needed surgery we couldn't afford. Then someone offers me enough money to solve all my problems for one 3-day trip. I knew it was wrong, but when you're drowning, you grab whatever lifeline someone throws you." Tonight, as we reflect on Operation Iron Highway, several truths demand our attention. First, critical infrastructure is vulnerable to criminal infiltration. The interstate system that powers American commerce was weaponized by cartels who understood that hiding among millions of legitimate trucks was the perfect camouflage. Second, financial desperation creates vulnerability. The thousands of drivers recruited weren't career criminals. They were working people pushed to the edge who made terrible choices when offered money they desperately needed. Third, surveillance and enforcement gaps create opportunity. Without systems to track truck stop ownership or monitor suspicious patterns, cartels operated freely for nearly a decade. Fourth, the human cost extends beyond arrests and seizures. The 8,400 people who died from drugs moved through this network had families, futures, and lives that were destroyed by a system designed to maximize profit while minimizing risk. And finally, we must ask, How many other networks are operating right now using different infrastructure we haven't identified yet? If you believe people who enable cartel operations deserve severe punishment, tap like. If you believe truck stops need better monitoring, comment, protect our highways. And if you want us to keep exposing these networks, subscribe, join our membership, and share this video. Because the fight against cartel infiltration of American infrastructure isn't over. Not on our interstates, not in our communities, and not anywhere that criminal organizations can exploit the systems we depend on.